From recruiting and consulting firm Riderflex, I'm your host, Steve Urban, and here is your Riderflex podcast episode of the day.
Yeah.
Tim Morrissey on the Riderflex podcast. How's it going, Tim?
I'm doing quite well. How about yourself?
It's going great. I love that outfit. We're both wearing black. We're all dressed up. Show everybody your haircuts so they know we're the same. Right?
Yeah. Matching haircuts over here too. Keep it simple.
I like it. Isn't it nice? I love it. I love the buzz. And I buzzed mine down in like 97. So it's been like 23 years and I've never gone back. How were you?
This was actually a quarantine experiment for me.
Oh.
I had some short bald hair before, and then quarantine, I just started doing it all the way and I never looked back.
Bro, isn't that great?
It is. It's very nice. My wife approves too, so we're okay.
That's key.
Yeah.
That's key. Okay, so yeah, let's find out about you personally a little bit. Give us I think you're from the East Coast. I saw the New York, the smaller college in New York, and I saw that. So I'm like, oh, he's the East Coast guy. Maybe he grew up in New York. I don't know. But anyway, let's get into it. Give us the personal story before we get into the company stuff.
Absolutely. So I reside in Boulder, Colorado. I love Boulder. I've been out here since about 2013, moved out here to go to grad school, actually, to do some really specific research. Moved out here with my now wife, girlfriend at the time, grad school for the mountains, though. I'm a big skier. Skiing's a big part of my life. It drives a lot of my decisions, including before I came out here, I was living in France, actually skiing a season out there.
What? Okay. Yeah. That's okay.
That was a good time.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in upstate New York, rural New York, a town called Little Falls, extremely small, right smack dab in the center. Most kids that I graduated with high school with don't go to college, that type of town.
Is this north, south, east, west of Albany? Like, give me a, where's that?
It is just a bit west of Albany.
Okay.
So it's actually smack dab between Albany and Syracuse.
Okay. All right. Very good. Oh, I don't know. What's wrong? Is my Zoom on what's wrong with my focus? Sorry. Okay, so you grew up there, you went to how'd you decide to go to that college? What was it, Alfred?
Yep, I went to a college called Alfred University. I went there, I learned about it to go study a very specific type of engineering called ceramic engineering, which is like super specialized material science. And I did that because I had a couple uncles that did that too. Actually, one uncle that lives out here that I'm really good friends with, he's a ceramic engineer as well. So kind of family introduction to the degree. And then I went there because it was a good value. I went to a university, but it was actually a state school, and that was really important to me. I came from a middle-class family, so it was a good opportunity for me to how I got educated.
What did your folks do?
My mother's a kindergarten teacher, retired now, and my father is an accountant, moved up the ranks. He's a CFO for a small company in upstate New York now.
That's why you did the little substitute teaching there for a bit.
Yep.
Your mom was a teacher. That's the tie back. Okay.
Yep, I've been a teacher, and I've taught in when I did that little France trip too. That was in 2012. My wife and I picked the first half. I went to France, went skiing for 4 months. My wife picked the second half. We went to Thailand and taught English for 4 months. So I've kind of taught in a few different places. Yeah.
Cool. Did you guys meet in college, you and your wife?
Yep. We met in college. She's from out here originally, but she went to school out there at Alfred University. We met
there. That's why you came to Colorado to go to grad school, not only because of the mountains and skiing, because that's where she's from.
The in-laws.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Now, how did you meet your wife? What's your wife's name?
My wife's name is Elise Morrissey. She's wonderful, and she's the mother of our small son, Patrick, who's going on 2 years, coming up in 2 months.
Oh, pretty cool. Well, you're getting close to potty training time pretty quick.
Yeah. We're looking forward to the end of diapers. That's for sure.
Dude, yeah, it's so good once they get past that. I've always said from like 3 to like 11 is like, those are the magic years, bro. 3 to 11. I'm just telling you.
What happens after 11, man?
Well, the puberty. They start to mature, 12 and 13 years old, then they start thinking they know shit, and, then it's not quite as fun. But 3 to 11, it's golden years.
I'm having a pretty good time right now. He likes getting in the backpack. I take him hiking, and I take him backcountry skiing too on some really conservative stuff.
Really?
Sitting back there and looking around and stuff. Yeah.
Very cool. How did you meet your wife, by the way? Were you at a party at Alfred and you're like, across the room?
Now that might be a story not for the podcast, my friend. That's a story for a bar stool somewhere
Gotcha.
else.
Okay.
No. We met freshman year. I courted her for 4 years, and then she finally started dating me senior year right before we got out of there. So we met a few different ways, including parties, but also in school, specifically in a preemptive study abroad class. I was going down to New Zealand for a semester. She was going over to England, And that's when I got to engage with her a little bit more.
Okay, so for all you investors out there, if you're wondering if you're going to give your cash to Tim and he's going to give up, the answer is no, because he chased this girl for 4 years before she finally said yes. So right.
That's a very accurate statement, my friend.
All right, cool. So all right, so you finish school, you do the overseas stuff. That's cool.
Yep.
You come to Colorado for grad school. You're married. When did you get married? Before you
got
came
married
out?
oh boy, what's up with all the tough questions, my friend? I got married in 2015.
I mean, was that before when you came out to Colorado, or you came out first and then got married?
No, came out first. My wife and I were just dating. We came out, but we had just got back. That's when I got real serious about it. And so it was actually funny. We just skidded into Boulder on fumes, man. We had just traveled the world, spent every dollar we had, go to grad school in Boulder, no money whatsoever. But I decided I wanted to marry this girl. And so I actually used one skill I had, which was I bought old skis, tuned them up, and resold them just to put a couple pennies together and buy my wife a ring that year.
Are you serious? That's pretty cool right there.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
Yep. That's exactly right.
Where'd you live? Like a little 800 square foot apartment somewhere?
Oh, that's smaller than that, I think. Yeah, we lived at a few different places. We were just in a room, and then we lived in Central Boulder in a tiny little apartment. Yeah.
All right, so you're going to grad school, and she's going to grad school at the same time?
No. She was just working. She's an educator as well. She's a teacher, and so she was working.
All right, so she's working. You start grad school. Okay. Do you have any idea at this point? Are you still thinking? Are you thinking entrepreneur? Walk me into walk me into kind of what happens now.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, I was at grad school and I was studying this really specific stuff. I was still doing this like ceramic researchy stuff.
Okay.
I'd come here to do that specifically, and something we missed a little part in my story. I spent 1.5 years at this place called Oak Ridge National Labs down in Tennessee, just like en route for maybe some of our Front Range audience, a national lab, super quality research happening there. And so if you had asked any of like my undergrad friends, my roommates, if I was going to become the entrepreneur, they would have said absolutely not. I was like anti-business. I was at the bench. I was really science heavy, loved like just being in the lab. Okay. And so I did that for a few years when I came here to Colorado. And then actually just through some personal things, I ended up not continuing on that research. I didn't get along with the person that I was working with, which is totally fine. It wasn't a major issue at all, but we switched things up. And that's when I found my way into what I do now, which we'll get into later, which is like soft robotics. Continued to be real technical though, as a PhD student, obviously. But then found myself kind of meandering into leadership positions and things like that. And then eventually we can talk about the story of what launched Artimus. But it really was kind of, I was not that kid saying I'm going to go be a CEO. I was not super into entrepreneurship and things like that. I just found my way there eventually.
Okay. So while you were going to school?
Yeah.
Now, did this happen when you started going for your doctorate? Is that when you were like, oh, I think maybe I'm headed down this mechanic? I mean, talk to me about this. When is that? How does that happen? Just go ahead and give me the story. Are you getting is this when you're getting your master's or when you're getting your doctorate? And talk to me.
Yeah. So what actually happens often for engineers, a lot of times you'll come in from undergrad and go straight for your doctorate. Okay. They like that because then you commit to a project for longer and you can move the needle a little bit more. So I'd committed to a completely different project. And what happened was I had a fight with my boss and he fired me. He actually fired me like 2 or 3 weeks before my wedding. It was a very crazy time in my life, but it turned out so good for me. Like I'm so glad I got off that road because it wasn't working out. But I was too stubborn to realize that. But so what happened, and we'll kind of jump into the story of Artimus now, is we worked on this soft robotic technology for a couple of years, heads down, and it absolutely was not just me. I was actually the first PhD student in this new research group, but a few others that were really impactful got hired right behind me, and they're my co-founders here at the company. And we worked on this technology for a while.
For your doctorate, you're working on the technology just to get your doctorate, but
just to get my doctorate. Yeah, just to get my doctorate. We are academics. We are academics through and through. A little bit of noise about maybe someday we'll like commercialize something, but like we had never shown the world our research. What happened was when we finally put this research out, it got picked up by press, like National Geographic, Wired. We were on CPR, things like that. That brought in commercial interest. And that's when we're just sitting around a meeting, December 2017. Yeah, a while ago now. And we're just like, hey, people really like what we're doing here. And so that was the origins of Artimus. And we can talk more about that. And so it really was me and some guys. And nobody really kind of knew what that looked like or what it meant. And I just found myself organizing the team and things like that. And that's when I kind of elevated up to the CEO and really kind of gave this some structure and some leadership that we needed at that time. So
Now,
super organic,
ah.
really kind of just meandering our way to what we're doing now.
Well, you said you guys were in a meeting, more like you guys were at a bar having beers and you're like, oh, okay, I think we got something.
Those have happened at other times too, but it depends on which meeting.
Yeah, so I see you kind of gradually move into this to where you guys are like tapping each other on the shoulder going, damn, there's actually some interest here. Like, man, maybe we should like turn this into a company.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
how does that work? Does and I'm totally ignorant to this, so just treat me layman's, education here. If you're working on this shit at the college, do they own it? Do
Oh,
you
yeah.
own it? Like, and then you try to turn it, how does that work?
Yeah. That's a whole kind of discussion, and I'm happy to talk about that. But I mean, as anything, the university's paying you, right? You're an employee of the university when you're doing that type of research. Even as a
Okay.
graduate student, you're getting paid to do what you're doing.
Okay.
And so, as anything, they're going to own the fruits of your labor. Like that's going to happen at a big corp too. You go
Yeah.
work for Google, you invent something,
Yeah.
Google owns it. Same
Yeah.
system at a university.
Okay.
But the university has mechanisms, though, to spin out things, and it's usually called a tech transfer office or something similar to that.
Okay.
And so they have opportunities to license it back to you. So although they own the original patents, they license them back to Artimus, which is the company now, and we take it forward. And so there's a whole lot of discussion on that. There's a lot of good intentions on making that process smooth and seamless. Different universities do it differently.
Okay.
Here at CU, they're trying hard, but it was a difficult time for the company. It was one of the harder negotiations, and it does feel weird because you literally end up sitting on the other side of the table that you used to sat on, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's very weird. It's strange, but it's solvable. In the end, we got a fine deal. Well, a fine deal.
Okay.
It works for
Okay.
us. But the university owns a small piece of the company for it, and they're going to get a little bit of royalties for the sales for the future. But they have the ecosystem that allowed this to exist in the first place.
Understood.
Right? So that's kind of the logic behind it. You couldn't go do this at Google, right? You couldn't leave Google and say, "Hey, by the way, can I have the stuff I invented?"
Yeah,
That's never going to happen.
right.
Right?
So
So
so are you nearing your final year of your doctorate when this thing is starting to take off?
yes. That's
Okay.
exactly right. Yep, that's exactly right. I'm wrapping up my PhD. My first son's being born all at the same time. I'm on the way out, and we launched the company all officially, signed the documents and launched the company all in the course of a 3-month period.
Wow.
And it's a great time. And then what was good for us too over at Artimus is I jumped into it first. I was full time. We got some grants from the state of Colorado, which are phenomenal.
I was just about to ask you, how did you eat and pay rent and all that kind of stuff?
Yep, we got some grants lined up, and it was perfect. And then the rest of my co-founders, actually, they were from the university too, and they were still finishing things up. And so that had advantages and disadvantages. The advantages are they had a different paycheck. They were not full time at the company yet. And so that meant, how did we kind of do this? We didn't need as much cash. We weren't very intensive. Gotcha. And then they actually came over kind of slowly and surely. And so while our progress might have been a little slower, because ideally you want everybody full time, it meant that we didn't have a huge capital strain at the beginning. So that's been really, we really had a nice kind of takeoff ramp.
Plus your wife was making money as a teacher, so you weren't starving.
Yeah, that's helpful too.
And is she like, is your wife looking at you like, no, what are you doing? You got your doctorate. You're supposed to like go get like a regular job or something and make
I tell people I can never have a regular job anymore. I've been too like loosey-goosey doing this crazy stuff. No, she supports me with everything I do always. I've never been happier and more engaged in any of my professional kind of experiences than I have now. Entrepreneurship fits Tim Morrissey really well.
I can see it. I can see it all over your personality. I was watching I watched another interview you did with somebody, and I was just like, oh yeah, this guy's he's just dripping entrepreneur. You totally got the spirit for it, the personality. And by the way, I can't see you heads down, quiet in a lab coat all day. Like no.
I can be. I can turn it on.
Can you? Okay.
Yeah, I really like technical stuff. It's actually been something I've been kind of balancing. Now that I'm in this leadership position at Artimus, I'm not at the bench much anymore. And I think I'm okay with it, but I do reflect on it regularly to still be like, is Tim all right? And the truth is, I still build stuff in my personal life and like campers and things like that. So I think I find an opportunity to kind of scratch that itch in other places. I enable my team to get to do that. And that's what I value that so much more. I take ownership in what they're able to do because I'm building a company that empowers them to do it. And that's what I'm trying to do. So
was there ever any, like, one of your buddies is like, no, man, I want to be the CEO? Like, hey,
no, we got a real good kind of natural fit of a team here. We get along pretty well. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. We're technical heavy for sure, but we're a tech company. We got a lot of technical problems.
Right.
And so no, it lines up well. And I think I think my leadership style works well with the team I have too, where I'm really all about empowering them. You know, I was just talking to a good mentor of mine, and a good CEO, when you don't show up that day, nobody even notices. He's like, be the most useless person around, because everybody else is just so focused and doing the important stuff that when you don't show up, the important stuff's still happening.
That's pretty good advice. That's pretty
good advice. Lead that way, man. If everything's relying on you and no one can do anything until you sign off on it or check something, you're just holding everybody up.
Totally agree. For everybody that has no idea what we're talking about, let's do it. I think now's a good time. Give them the Artimus Robotics overview, man. Give us the elevator pitch. Go for it.
Yeah, for sure. So Artimus Robotics is changing the way the world moves by enabling lifelike motion in a bunch of new industries. We've seen the field of robotics and automation try to move forward in the world, right? We've all been promised the rosy robot in the home.
Right? Where's mine? I want one. Yeah.
Hey, everybody wants it, man. Everybody wants it. And even in the factory, it's all been promised. You know, no one's going to need to do any labor anymore. The robots are going to do it. But go look around, and that's not happening, because what's happening in the field of robotics is we're advancing AI, we're advancing vision, right? But we're not advancing motion, how to actually move things. Hardware. The saying hardware is hard is very accurate, but at Artimus, that doesn't scare us. And so what we do is we actually have a new technology, which is a motion technology, a way to make things move. We call it artificial muscles. And we purposely use that term because we're trying to replicate the performance of human muscles. So we make what's called a linear actuator, something that moves, it contracts or expands or something like that. And we have a new way to do that with electricity and liquids and flexible materials. So brand new concepts of how to get something to move. And so we bring that to market. We've got defense areas, industrial automation, some other kind of experimental consumer areas that are a little farther out, but really just helping these different industries move more like you and I. That's what we're doing at Artimus.
So everybody else is focused on the brain, and you're focused on CP3O's body, basically.
Yep. Everybody's focused on the brain, and we're focused on the body. That's perfect.
Awesome. You're right. You know, you're right. Where are the robots? We were promised those 20 years ago, because I want one for my house that can just do shit, you know, like the laundry and take out the trash.
They're always 20 years out. But there is a lot changing right now. But usually what I say is that, like, what's more important? AI that can help me map something better, right? Like, and that's fun, but I actually want to do the thinking. I like thinking. There's physical tasks I don't want to do. And so that's really important for us to kind of start working on those problems right now.
Good point. I mean, do you have a lot of competition? I mean, I'm just guessing there's a lot of other companies trying to make robot bodies.
Yeah, for sure. There's competition. We operate what you would do if you were kind of categorizing our technology and what we do. We operate in a region called soft robotics. So that's one of our key things is our technology is literally soft and flexible. We take inspiration from nature. Look at yourself. You've got a soft, compliant bicep and muscles and things like that. And we think if you start there, you're a lot better suited to go solve different motion challenges rather than starting with metals and rotating gears and things like that. We don't use anything like that. Super radical way to make things move. There are other people working on these type of problems, including other startups now. This has been an academic kind of endeavor for a long time. But notable companies is a company named Soft Robotics Inc. out in Boston. They're doing phenomenal work with a soft compliant like gripper, picking up food and things like that. And then there's a few other folks out there often doing like maybe healthcare applications or exosuits and things like that, but not a lot of traction. Soft robotics is a very kind of nascent industry. But if
interesting. And what's the model? Are you selling the technology? Are you selling parts? Are you selling eventual bodies of robot? Like what's the model?
Yeah, fantastic question. Currently, Artimus positions itself to be a component supplier. So we are selling pieces of hardware that someone's going to go put into their solution. So it's like we're the tire manufacturer selling to the car company that then sells their car with wheels on it and everything to somebody else. However, we have partners where we are a little more maybe licensee technology sales instead. And so if, you know, we have customers where selling just a component isn't necessarily the right play because the benefit of our technology needs to be like integrated really deeply into what they're building and things like that.
Gotcha.
And so what we do is we do some custom engineering like NRE or something like that, where we kind of set up a partnership and we say, okay, we have these widgets that move, but we're going to make you a really custom widget to make it move a little different. And then, I mean, we're a young company. None of that's on market yet, but the idea is that they can go ahead and just manufacture it themselves and do a license play or something like that, or we can do the manufacturing as well. But the core is making these kind of componentry widgets that people use elsewhere.
Very good. Okay, I love it. All right, and then talk to us. What's the size of the company? You've been around a couple of years or almost 3 years.
Yep.
How many employees?
We got 4 full-time employees and a couple of interns as well. And so yeah, we've been around. We were officially incorporated pretty much at the end of 2018, 2019.
Is everybody still working for equity, or are you making revenue and actually paying people now? Are you?
Yeah. We're paying people, baby. We're paying. We're doing just fine. We actually raised our first fundraise in the middle of COVID. It was always kind of on the map to raise at the beginning of 2020. I was literally traveling on whatever, March 12th or whatever, out in Chicago. I was supposed to be out in California on the 13th, 14th, when this whole thing hit. And it's real interesting to have investor conversations the day the stock market made the biggest plummet in like whatever.
Hey man, listen, I know there's this pandemic and like, you know, the world could end, but can you go ahead and write me like a couple $1 million check? I mean, would that be all right?
Exactly. So that was tough, but we're operating in a great space for that. After the shock wore off through March and into April, there was 2 things that made Artimus an investable company still in the middle of a pandemic. The first is that we operate in the field of robotics. If anything, this COVID thing has taught us how important it is to automate more things. We remember the food shortages in the grocery store because the meat packing facilities were shut down because the laborers shouldn't show up.
Exactly.
Right? So let's start getting robots that actually do the things that the laborer used to do. So that was one reason. We're in a good industry that's kind of like if we step back from that kind of scared, uncertain March time frame or mind frame, we see that it's totally fine. And then second, we're a super early stage company. And so compared to a consumer facing company that everybody just lost their jobs and ran out of money, and you know what, I'm not going to buy new shirts anymore.
Right.
We didn't have customers that were going to get disrupted. Like that. You know, we do have customers and it has disrupted us. I don't want to understate that. It has very much slowed down these development processes and projects that we have with customers to get our technology into their application. But it's going to be less impactful compared to it.
So somebody wrote you a check. You raised cash in March. Somebody wrote you a check in March.
No, somebody wrote us a check in. We were doing it in March. Somebody wrote us a check in I guess it was in May. So we closed it though in April.
But still, congratulations. That's a big win.
It was nuts.
That's a big win, bro. I mean, congrats. I mean, really great job. And not only was that a seed round, A round, what'd you call that?
We called it a seed round. It was a very small round. It was under $1 million. It was just enough to kind of put some in and get us moving, get us operational, moved us into a facility and really see where we're at. And what was interesting about what we did is at Artimus, we leverage both investor money. We do have revenue. We've been selling what we call dev kits since day one. And so we bring in money for thousands of dollars a month type of situation, tens of thousands some months.
Awesome.
So we've got a little bit of revenue too. And then we got government grants too. We're great technology, an early technology, and the government has programs like SBIR programs and the like to help support that.
So you're burning cash a little bit, but you do have revenue. Is that accurate?
We're burning cash a little bit, but we do have revenue. We're certainly not sustainable, and we certainly aren't sustainable as we bring the rest of the team on. But what the big crux was we had received this grant from the state of Colorado, and they are saying we're going to write you $250,000 check as long as you have $500,000 from somebody else. The state has this program where they have this like matching thing.
I see.
And so we had this money that was promised to us. Like we had won the grant and everything, and we had to go find the rest of the money in order to unlock everything. So we had this we had this kind of happening in quarter 2 of 2020 where everything was going to be totally fine or totally messed up. And so that's what was going on.
Meanwhile, while you were getting your doctorate and all the things you went to school for, you didn't take any classes on how to raise cash or talk people into. I mean, you had to learn.
I actually did, though. I started
okay.
auditing some classes at the very end of my PhD when I saw this happening. One of the most kind of interesting classes I ever took was from a gentleman named Brad Bernthal, and he co-teaches it with a pretty famous investor, Jason Mendelson of Foundry Group, who now retired.
Yep.
And so I audited that class, and it was wildly interesting, and it absolutely helped me. I'm not an expert in fundraising, but I could get up to speed a little faster when people start talking about things.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, very good. All right, very good. And so, is this all patented, protected? I mean, can anybody copy this? Do you have you spent a bunch of money on lawyers to get this stuff patented? What?
Yes, we spent a lot of money on lawyers. CU originally spent the money on lawyers, and then they tell you, by the way, you can help us pay for some of those now. So the company has the portfolio with CU is, I think, 6 pieces of IP deep, and then the company has a couple as well.
Okay.
And none of it's granted yet, but it's all kind of provisional. But that's to be expected at this stage. These things just take years to move through the processes. Most of our IP is really, like I said, we're making motion in a very different way compared to how other people do it. We're not using a motor or a gearbox or anything like that. We use this thin plastic films, we use liquids, and we use pretty high voltage electronics. And that's a unique system, and that's like the core platform technology. We call it HASEL, artificial muscles, and that's what the majority of our IP is focused on. Not all of it. Some of our IP is focused on applications too, but.
Do you want to build a $1 billion company that's supplying robot makers with all these things that they need, or are you hoping to get it to 200 million and flip it to Google or Amazon? Or do you necessarily have that whiteboarded out, or right now you're just having fun building it?
No, we're not just having fun. I always tell my team we're $1 billion company for sure. We're just a little early today. And so, no, we absolutely are very much that whole kind of Levi jeans to the gold rush situation. We're building a critical tool to unlock the robotics industry. And that tool is a motion tool, get things to move in the proper way. And so I see us supplying all these different robotic companies with what they need. And sometimes that means you build your own robot too, right? Like we will grow into that for sure. Yeah. But I equate us to Mitsubishi. Mitsubishi is a massive global company. They were founded when someone made a weird little motor for the mining industry, right? So it's a motion solution. They needed something for the mining, they needed something to spin or something like that. And they just grew and grew and grew. Now they're in all these verticals. And I think we could do a similar situation.
Okay. All right. Very good. Congratulations on getting it to where you're at so far. Really nice.
Thank you.
Nice. And in a very short time, by the way, in the scheme of things, a very short time, you've got it to this point where
we had a nice launch pad. Cause like I said, we've been working on the technology since 2015. Yeah. So when you get that under your belt, you get to move a little faster once you get out.
Very good. Have the other guys quit their jobs? Is everybody full-time?
Yeah, everybody's full-time now. Yep. That's a pretty recent development. It's been happening over the course of this year, essentially, though. But yeah, everybody's over here now.
I always love how those conversations go with wives and husbands and things when you go in and you're like, hey, listen, I'm doing this full-time and I'm walking away from this other thing that might be paying them. And it's always risky and scary.
No, everybody's it's been great. It's been great. And the pace that we're able to move now, it feels like a weight on our shoulders.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so now let me ask you, I'm sure you've gotten this question and you'll probably get it a million more times as you build this company. I want to ask you and push you towards the whole conversation around all the people that are scared robots are going to take over the planet and take over all the jobs. And, oh my God, you're going to eliminate all these jobs. Tim, come on, Tim, you're going to put all these people out of work. I mean, you're going to get this a million times, right? So talk to me about that fear and how when people bring it up with you, how do you answer it? What do you say? Go for it.
100%. I was fortunate enough to be educated by a gentleman that was working at the Google X facility out there in California. He educated me on this concept that I'm going to introduce here, but it's this concept that robots are taking our jobs. Right. It's technology is taking our jobs, and that's always been a consideration. People are always concerned about it. And guess what? It's always been trending in a certain direction. So let's lean into it and control that a little bit better. And so what's happening right now, like I talked about before, is automation is being developed. right? And so
Right.
you can automate different things. You can automate a physical laborious job. You can automate a simple intellectual job. You can automate a highly intellectual job, actually.
Yep.
And so take a step back, and when have quote unquote robots taken our jobs? Well, they haven't taken the fruit picking job yet. They haven't taken the truck unloading job yet, but they have taken the secretary's job. And they have taken maybe the planner's job, right? You don't need to really plan things as much. A computer program can do that. They're actually taking all of these low intellectual or even mid intellectual jobs that used to be kind of like good jobs that anybody would want. That's been happening really fast because of our developments in AI.
True.
But the laborious jobs are not. So what's happening is we're actually distilling down kind of those jobs that nobody wants.
Wow.
Let me get a little more specific on that. Walmart distribution centers. There's one up in Loveland, Colorado. I've toured it myself, right? Okay. When you get hired there, you don't need a college degree for it. It's a great job for folks. When you get hired there, your first job is literally picking boxes and throwing them on a conveyor belt. You essentially feed this big machine a certain number of boxes from that pile and that pile and that pile. Okay. And that's what they're going to kind of like make you cut your teeth on. It's a hard job. It's dark. It's back-breaking. It's rough stuff. Gotcha. But the idea is that you're going to work your way up, and slowly you're going to wear the 5-year pin and then the 10-year pin and the 15-year pin. And guess what? When you get the 15-year pin, that's a great job. People are happy there, right? Like it's a good job for a middle-class family to operate on. And that job is a forklift driving job, right? Drive a forklift around. That's way easier than hucking boxes, right? Guess what's like right around the corner in warehouse automation?
Forklifts that drive themselves.
We're going to automate all the forklifts because the self-driving car, all that technology, just drop it in a forklift. There's no bikes around or anything like that. And it's off to the races. And so that's an example where that entry-level job's still there and that good, not back-breaking job is going away. We're distilling down.
Wow.
And the reason for that is because we can't automate laborious things. We can't automate motion. And that's what we're doing at Artimus.
Wow. And by the way, you'll end up you'll replace the jobs that nobody wants to do anyway.
That the goal is to free up those individuals to work in more rewarding, more human jobs, not the dirty, the dull, and the dangerous jobs that they're being forced into.
Right. And you can't find employees to do anyway, and there's constant turnover, and trying to get people to stay there is a freaking nightmare.
Agriculture is oh my goodness, it's such an interesting area to look at. But yeah, agriculture is a really, those backbreaking jobs are hard to fill and they're really important.
Yeah, I totally agree. You'll end up making a better life for people because what'll happen is all those people that had those shitty ass jobs, they'll be transitioned into other easier jobs that are not so backbreaking and aren't so, damaging to their body physically. You'll end up putting them in a better situation probably.
That's what we believe. That's the future we're trying to enable here. Yep. But it's really hard. And that's why we're working on it. And that's why we're not afraid to tackle big problems.
Now you're going to be that guy that Sarah Connor has to like go back in time and like kill because you made the robots that like, no, I'm just playing. That's a spin off the Terminator movie.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. I hope not. I think we're going to empower some people, but yeah.
No, I'm just giving you a hard time. Okay, very good. Well, I'm ready for my robot. I want my robot in my house right now because I can there's several things. I mean, even yesterday, I thought about you because we were getting ready for the interview and I was looking up your stuff yesterday and I had a package dropped off by a shipping company. I ordered this fancy tent that goes in the back of my Jeep.
Nice. Oh, let's talk about that in a second, man.
Yeah. And I didn't know it was going to be as heavy and I didn't know it was going to be in such a big box. And he brings it to the front porch. I'm like, oh, damn. Okay. I don't know if I can get this around back by myself. I have to call my youngest son who drops by and helps me get it around to the garage. But the point is I was thinking about you and I thought if I had my household robot that's like 10 times stronger than me, he could just carry it around back for me.
Or it doesn't need to be 10 times stronger, just as strong, right? You just need your son to show up. You needed one more human strength.
That's right. One more.
Right?
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yep. So I'm ready. I think there'll be so many things that'll make our lives so much better. Can you imagine? It's for all the listeners that are scared robots going to take over. Just imagine having one that can do basic house duties. And so now on Saturday, instead of doing laundry and dusting your tables in the living room and cleaning the toilets, and all this shit you got to do on Saturday, guess what? You don't have to do that anymore. Now you can go to the mountains and go camping in your Jeep because you have more time.
Yep, that's right. That's exactly right.
I'm selling for you, Tim. I'm selling.
I appreciate it. You see the vision, man. It's all about, removing the barriers to enjoying life.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Let me ask you a couple of wrap up questions here. You've been through, I mean, you're still a super young guy, but you've been through a lot in the last 24, 30, 36 months. I mean,
Yep.
you're
Yep.
moving at light speed.
Yep.
Any quick 2 or 3 things you want to tell the aspiring entrepreneur who's still in college with his buddies? They got something going, but they haven't filed for their LLC yet. They haven't really taken any action,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they got an idea or they got a product. Any advice for them?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. The first is to just go for it. And when I say go for it, I mean lean into it. That idea is already a real company, and go start selling it to people. Go start talking to people left, right, and center. Anybody that'll listen to you about your idea and get some real feedback. Best yet, go talk to potential customers and get some real feedback. They'll educate you real fast on how dumb that idea actually is. And so lean into it. That, you don't need to go get a patent on the idea. No one's going to steal your idea. Someone else has probably already thought about your idea. Ideas are really important, but they're only important with execution. And so go test that. Go try to work it forward a little bit and see what's actually going on. So just talk to as many people as you can and meet as many people as you can, and see what that idea really looks like. Do not keep it away in your little notebook. Oh my goodness, I reinvented everything. I'm gonna finally solve nuclear fusion or something like that. Chances are you're not, but go get some opinions from other people on what's good and what's bad.
And don't be so scared that people are going to steal your idea and start something. That is really good advice. And I've had other entrepreneurs on the Riderflex podcast say the same thing. They're like, listen, just talk to everybody, tell everybody what's going on, get as much feedback as you can. Everybody's like, oh, I got to have them sign an NDA and I got to make sure my shit's protected. I mean, it's like, come on, man, just come on.
But it's scary. It's scary. And I don't want to downplay that either. And especially in the early stages, the idea makes up 100% of the company until you start executing. And eventually the idea is only 5% of the company, or hopefully 1% of the company, in the marketing and the brand and the technology, all these other things. But in the beginning, it's everything. So you want to hold on to it.
Right.
But yeah, one piece of advice that a mentor of mine gave me was, and I'm starting to not do this now. I'm too busy to do this. But he said, take every single meeting you can get until you really feel like you can't do it anymore. But you talk to every single person that is interested in talking to you until you break. But yeah.
Good advice. Any early advice now that you've had a little experience raising cash? Anything you want to tell the listeners on cash raise?
Oh, cash raise is super interesting. It's going to be different for every situation. Yeah. So that's really hard, but try to truly step back off of your quote unquote business plan, whatever idea you have on how you're going to go convince someone to give you more money and turn it into even more money. Step back and make sure all the dots actually connect. I've been in a couple of meetings when with my deck, they're going to be like, okay, so you're saying revenue there? Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure. Now let's talk about that thing you said earlier. Oh, look there's something's broken there. Ooh. So because then they're gonna be like, that's all they want is like, have you really thought through all of this? Everybody knows that this is all just a concept and everything has to go well for you to execute on this properly. But if it's like, if you have you say you're gonna make revenue over here and you have no indicator of how you build out that particular leg of the business or something, then people are gonna be like, what you literally just wrote that down, right? And then you'll be like, yeah. Yes. So like just really step back and try to make the plan actually coherent and keep bouncing around of like, okay, now I thought about this. How does that relate to what I thought about before? And then iterate. Because sometimes people are just linear and they don't clean that up. And it turns out there was some holes in their plan.
I like that. Connect the dots. Have you had any scary moments where you're waking up in a sweat in the middle of the night and your wife's like, what's wrong? And you're kind of pacing around the living room? Any of that yet?
Yeah, I mean, sure, whatever. We've had some scares. I mean, it was rough. When COVID hit and like that was like with the time with the raise and stuff, I was like, oh boy, like, oh boy. I wasn't really sure what was going to happen because I didn't have, I'm still an early stage company and a first time founder, and I am confident in the future of Artimus. I'm very confident in it now. I love what I'm doing here. But that really made you question everything when I was trying to tell people to give me money in an unarguably like never experienced time. And so it was like, are you kidding me? Like, how much risk do you have right now? And so I was like, uh-oh, Like this might be the kind of thing I didn't foresee, but we got through it. We got through it. And then I got through it by talking to my team and being honest with them of where I was at and what I was thinking. And we figured it out.
And you did what we did at Riderflex, same thing. We just kept going forward. I just kept moving forward. So many people I know, we kind of put their head in the sand and, oh my God, the sky's falling. We're just going to hide over here. I'm like, no, we didn't. You did probably what we did. We just kept charging forward and just kept moving forward and kept taking action, because
what can we do? What can we do today? Okay,
yes.
We can't do that anymore. What can we do? I mean, COVID was particularly interesting for us because we build things. We make hardware. We have a lab. We have tools. We have things to do.
Yeah.
Compared to a company that's completely like, oh,
Right.
I just code. All right, fine. I'll take my computer home.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So that was a challenge for us. And so what can we do? But I don't want to downplay it. We got lucky. There's a lot of people that have tried really hard and who did just keep moving and were not as fortunate through that kind of turmoil. And so I do feel kind of fortunate.
Well, you guys have done a great job on it so far. Congratulations. By the way, for everybody listening, it's artimusrobotics.com, artimusrobotics.com. Or you can look up Timothy Morrissey on LinkedIn and see his great looking profile picture there. Do I get one of those branded caps you're wearing? Do I need to send you?
Hey, if you want one, man, yeah. Shoot me an email afterwards. I'll get you some stickers and a cap.
I like that, man. Congratulations on everything so far, and really appreciate you being on the Riderflex podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. It's been fun.
If you think today's tip or guest interview can help someone you know, please share this with them. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. The Riderflex podcast features entrepreneurs, business executives, and the stories behind how they got there, as well as daily tips on career advice and job interviewing. You can visit riderflex.com to learn more about us and get information and pricing on the recruiting and consulting services we provide. Thanks so much for listening, and have a great day.